What's going on, guys? It's me, Andrew Lung's Train Vlogs channels we've watched, and just a quick tour about City Train's S-sets. S-sets are the double-deckers, which are 4-car sets, but sometimes come with 8-car sets. So read the description of the City Train's S-sets. The S-sets are a class of electric multiple unit operated by City Trains in New South Wales, Australia. The carriages are of stainless steel double-deck construction. The class is currently the oldest in the City Trains fleet and is the only train in the entire fleet that is not air-conditioned. The first passenger to enter service in the first passenger service is 1972, and I don't think will the last service to be ceased in 2019. The S-sets are constructed from 1972 to 1980, and re-entered service in 1972. It was refurbished in 1990s. Yeah, like that one. Flemington Maintenance Centers working on the depot. Following the successful trial of 4 double-decker power cars built by Tulloch in 1968, 53 Series 1 power car cars were ordered from Cumming and delivered in 1972 to 1973. They were paired with 1965 to 1967 Tulloch-built trailer carriages that have previously operated in company with single-deck power cars. The first 33 were painted Tuscan to match the trailer cars, while the last 14 were painted in a newly introduced Public Transport Commission blue and white livery. From 1978, the blue and white livery was replaced by an Indian red livery. In 1979, the painted Series 1 cars began to have their paint removed to match the Series 2 cars. Only 7 were completed, and it wasn't until August 1988 that program recommenced, with the last carriage treated in 1990. Subsequent orders saw another 154 power cars, 67 trailer cars, and 85 driving trailer cars built by Cumming. These were all built to the Series 2 design with butt type polished inserts to the carriage sides, flat rather than tapered number 2 ends, throw over rather than sliding reversible seats, upgraded interior lights, and a natural stainless steel finish. A further order saw 80 power cars and 70 trailer cars constructed by A. Goonan and Co. in 1978 to 1980. These cars differed in having a square type of footing and flat fronts of the power cars. All were formed into either 4-car S-sets or the 2-car T-sets. In practice, there are only a few diagrams requiring 2 carriage sets, resulting in most T-sets being used to form 6 and 8-car sets. By the early 1980s, some permanent 6-car sets have been formed, and as R-sets in 1983, there were 60 T-sets. 12 months later, this was down to 19. In April 1982, 10 driving trailers were introduced in local services between Scarborough and Port Kembla. These two PK sets ran until the line was electrified in December 1985. They were hauled by 48 class diesels, but because of incompatibility between the electrical systems, the automatic doors were disconnected. From June 1984, 4 3-car sets of Gunningen operated suburban services from Newcastle to Fastford and Marset as NC sets. This stock was allocated to Mortdale and periodically rotated. In August 1989, this was reduced to 2 sets. In September 1989, the remaining NC sets were replaced by 2 carriage L sets from Hornsby. These were replaced in January 1982. In May 1987, the 10 newest driving trailers based as Hornsby were renumbered D4001 to D4010, and the remainder between to have the control equipment removed to and revert to ordinary trailers. To allow Tangaras to be targeted as T sets, the remaining 2-car sets became L sets in April 1988. When refurbished in the 1990s, the crew compartments were removed. To operate services on the newly electrified Riverstone to Richmond line from August 1991, all 10 driving trailers and a number of Series 1 power cars were fitted with headlights. From October 1996, 2-car L sets replaced U sets on suburban services between Thirroul, Port Kembla, and Kiama. These were later extended to 3 cars before being replaced by Tangaras in October 2011. During the 1990s, all carriages were refurbished as part of the City Decorate program. These saw the interiors refurbished with white cells and ceilings, gray floors, and blue seats. Power cars received a destination indicator and have yellow applied to the lower half of their fronts. Sliding black clawwood windows were replaced with hopper windows and doors painted yellow. And the S sets used to be R sets, like that one. R sets. Okay. After nearly 40 years of service, the tall trailers were deemed life expired and the last withdrawn in March 2004. This resulted in a disproportionate number of power cars. To address the balance, 23 coming power cars were converted into trailers. Most of the conversions were Series 1 cars. However, a few conversions involved Series 2 cars. This involved the removal of the yellow painted front on some cars, pantograph, and opening up of the driving compartment for passengers. Some cars had their external lights removed and painted over, and their cabs removed. Others retained these fittings. All retained their motors and compressors for ballast purposes. The destination indicator was also retained as it would cost too much to have been removed. They were painted over instead. These cars are easy to recognize as they have an open space where the pantograph once was. All remaining 498 carriages were to be replaced by A sets from 2012. with the last scheduled for replacement in 2015. In March 2013, it was revealed a limited number of assets would need to be retained after the full introduction of the assets, as the option to build further assets had lapsed, meaning no trains to be ordered for the Southwest Rail Link. The last Series 1 power car was withdrawn in January 2014. The final asset was delivered in June 2014. In May 2014, the state government announced its intention to purchase 520 new carriages for the New South Wales Train Link intercity network, with deliveries to commence in 2019. These new trains will replace at least some H sets from intercity services, allowing them to be transferred to Sydney trains to replace the remaining S sets. During their history, S sets operated on all Sydney lines. The last R sets were disbanded in August 2012, with all carriages formed into 4-car S sets. The last sets were transferred from Mortdale to Flemington in March 2013, bringing an end to the operation on eastern suburbs and Illawarra services. However, one set remained operational through parts of March and April on the line. In May 2014, all Hornsby sets were transferred to Flemington for operation on Sector 2. Sydney trains retained 48 4-car sets, or 24 8-car consists, following the delivery of the final A sets. In June 2014, the government announced that all timetabled services except those on the T7 Olympic Park shuttle would be operated by air-conditioned trains. After the new November 2017 timetable, a number of S sets returned to regular service on City Trains Sector 2, T2 Inner West and Leppington Line, formerly known as T2 Inner West and South Line, T3 Bankstown Line, and T8 and the brand new T8 Airport and South Line, as well as running exclusively on the T6 Cullingford Line and T7 Olympic Park Line on weekdays. And that's about enough for the voiceover of the... And don't mention. S said carriages start with C, T, and D, which were built by Cumming. And all the S sets built by A. Gunanen and Co. start with C and T. That's about enough then. Please subscribe to my channel, like and favorite the video. I will see you next time.